Chapter 24. Clara. Clara, can you hear me? Clara blinked and tried to focus on Mason's voice. It was Mason, wasn't it? He sounded so far off, though, and her eyes felt so heavy. Clara, I'm here. She felt his hand grab hers, and she struggled to open her eyes. Where was she? A soft beeping noise joined Mason's voice, and there was a constant hum that she couldn't place. Definitely not her apartment, but then where? And then the image of the bright headlights filled her mind. Her eyes flashed open as she gasped and then grimaced in pain. Clara, are you okay? Clara took a moment to assess her pain before answering. I think so, but my chest really hurts, as does my head. What time is it? She turned her head slowly to regard Mason. He sat in a chair at her bedside, concern covering his handsome features. Noon. You've been out for a while, according to the nurse. I guess you suffered a concussion, as well as bruised ribs in the accident. That would explain why everything feels hazy. But what are you doing here? I thought you needed time. The corners of his lips pulled into a smile. I thought I did too. But it's amazing how that view changes when you find out someone you love has been injured. He squeezed her hand a little tighter. Someone you love. The words were so sweet to her ears. She had thought perhaps she had destroyed their chance last night, but something had obviously changed his mind. She was curious as to what. I love you too, though this isn't how I pictured telling you. She chuckled slightly and then grimaced in pain again. It doesn't matter how you tell me. His smile widened. I'm just happy to hear it. She squeezed his hand with as much strength as she could muster. I'm happy to hear it, and say it too. But how did you even find out I was here? Mason chuckled. That's kind of a long story. When Duke picked me up for my appointment this morning, I was still angry at everything. But he showed me how the timing of this might have been God's timing. I thought about that during my appointment and decided that he was right. So I tried calling you. At first no one picked up, but finally a nurse answered and told me what had happened. I came right over. Clara smiled at him. That wasn't a very long story. A deep, warm laugh tumbled out of Mason's lips, and his eyes twinkled. Yeah, I guess not the way I told it. It felt a lot longer, but that was probably due to my inner turmoil. I can see that. She was glad to see the concern leave his face. How did your appointment go, by the way? It went well. The doctor removed the cast and told me to start putting weight on it. No more crutches. Of course, it means I'm even slower now. You'll probably be faster than me. Clara tried not to chuckle to avoid the crushing pain on her chest. At least for a little while. I have no doubt you'll rebound sooner, though. I guess we'll both be taking it easy at the championship game. But at least we'll be doing it together, she said softly. A knock sounded at the hospital door, and Clara glanced over to see Duke enter. Hope I'm not intruding, but we wanted to give you these. He held up a beautiful vase of flowers and balloons that read, Get well soon. It had been ages since Clara had seen Duke, but she'd always liked Mason's older brother. He'd never treated the two of them like they were annoyances, even though they were 2 years younger. Instead, he'd driven them places before they had their licenses and continued to hang out with them often when they had movie nights at the Dixon's house. Thank you, Duke. That is so thoughtful. Well, it was Mason's idea. I just did the purchasing and delivering because otherwise we still wouldn't have made it to the gift shop yet. He held his hand up as if whispering an aside. In case you haven't noticed, he's a little slow these days. Mason shot his brother a glare. You just wait until my tendon heals, and then we'll see who the slow one is. Duke set the flowers down and then held his hands up in defense. No argument from me, little brother. You've always been faster, which is why you're the athlete and I'm the advertiser. Clara smiled as she watched the two bicker the same way they used to in high school. She supposed sibling rivalries Didn't change much, even over the years. I don't mean to break up this family quarrel, but has a doctor been in? Do you know when I might get out of here? Clara knew her recovery would not be immediate, but she'd certainly rather recoup in her own house, where she could curl up in her warm jammies and binge-watch her favorite shows. Mason shook his head. I haven't seen one yet. I'll go see if I can track one down, Duke said, before ducking out of the room. Thank you for coming, Mason. You're welcome, but you know we're going to have to talk to my parents and your father, right? The sigh that escaped Clara seemed to hold the weight of the world. She knew he was right, but she certainly wasn't excited about the prospect of it. Things were already rocky with her father after the botched lunch, and she didn't look forward to upsetting his parents as well. Still, though they were adults, their relationship would be better if they could get the blessings of their families. I know, but maybe that can wait until I can breathe a little easier? I think we can make that happen, Mason said with a reassuring smile. I hear we're awake and itching to go home, an unfamiliar female voice said from the doorway. Clara looked up to see a woman in a white coat enter the room. She grabbed the chart by the door and scanned it. How is the pain, Miss Bradford? Manageable, Clara said. My head is pounding a little and my chest hurts. But if there's nothing more serious, I'm ready to go home. You have some internal bruising, but other than your concussion, your injuries are actually pretty minor. You were lucky, Miss Bradford. It appears someone was watching out for you. I'd like to do a final check, and then I'll sign your release papers. Be back in a bit. Thank you, Clara said, before smiling back at Mason. He'd suggested their reunion was due to God's timing, and she was pretty certain her non-serious injuries were as well. It might have been a rough 6 years, but it looked as if God was blessing them even more because of it.